On March the 28th, 2020, the body of Lonnie Franklin Jr. was found in his cell in San Quentin State Prison in California and was pronounced dead at 7:43 p.m. The 63-year-old former police mechanic from Los Angeles was described as one of the most prolific serial killers in American history. Accused of killing 10 women between 1985 and 2007. However, this number is disputed by police and they believe that he could have killed up to at least 180 women. Taken between 1988 and 2002, this would earn him the name the Grim Sleeper, as there was a large gap between those years. The 1980s was a troublesome time for Los Angeles, as the city reeled amid the crack cocaine epidemic. All of the murders had been committed within close proximity. Many of the young women had been shot. Most had been subjected to some form of sexual assault. The bodies were dumped in alleyways and stuffed into garbage bags, while some were covered with mattresses. The first victim of Franklin was on August the 10th, 1985. Deborah Jackson, a 29-year-old cocktail waitress and a single mother of 3 who went to take a bus home after visiting a friend, was found dead 3 days later with 3 gunshot wounds to her chest with a .25 caliber handgun. The following year, in August 1986, the body of Henrietta Wright, a 35-year-old, found dead in an alleyway near West Vermont Avenue. She was shot twice and wrapped in a blanket and covered in a mattress. She too had been killed with a .25 caliber handgun. The pattern of bullet wounds suggested that the killer had been the same person. Investigators didn't immediately link the two cases, but analysis of the bullets showed that the same gun was used to kill both women. Detectives worked various leads focusing on the murder weapon itself, but progress stalled. However, in January 1987, an anonymous 911 tip-off reported witnessing a woman's body being dumped into an alleyway. When police arrived at the scene, they discovered the body of Barbara Ware. She was fatally shot in the chest with a .25 caliber gun. Detectives traced the license plate of the van to a church, where the keys to the vehicle were easily accessible to almost anyone. As detectives reckoned their lead was a dead end, they questioned who had initially reported the call. They had assumed that the killer itself had reported the 911 call, as it was almost impossible for the person to see where the body had been placed in the alleyway unless he was present. The gun used to kill the third victim was also found to match on the other 2 victims. In addition, saliva and semen was also collected from the scene. Now, in the late 1980s, however, there was no national DNA database to point investigators to a suspect. However, bodies were being piled up. On April the 15th, 1987, Benita Sparks, 26-year-old, had gone out shopping but never returned. Her body was found in a bin covered with rubbish. She had been shot, strangled and beaten. On October the 31st, 1987, Mary Lowe, 26, had left home to go to a party but never returned. Her body was also found in an alleyway on Western Avenue. On January the 30th, 1988, Laurisha Jefferson was found with a napkin over her face with the words AIDS written on it. On September the 11th, 1988, Alyssa Alexandra, another victim, was also killed while shopping. The 18-year-old's body was found in an alleyway near Western Avenue. On December the 21st, 2001, 15-year-old Princess Bamithuk, the youngest victim, was found strangled and beaten. On July the 11th, 2003, Valerie McCarvey, a 35-year-old, had been strangled and sexually assaulted. However, in the spring of 1988, the case took a dramatic turn. One of the only known survivors of Franklin, the 30-year-old Enrita Margaret, was walking to a friend's house when she accepted a ride from a man. While en route, Franklin had shot Margaret through the chest and had raped her. He took a Polaroid picture and pushed her out of the car, leaving her for dead. Miraculously, she survived. Margaret gave the authorities a description of the shooter, but still, the case went cold for another 20 years. Then on New Year's Eve of 2007, the body of a woman identified as Genesia Peters was found in a dumpster in an alleyway. She was killed by a .25 caliber handgun. The murder of Genesia Peters, 25, was linked through DNA analysis to 11, possibly 12 unsolved murders in Los Angeles. In the early September of 2008, officials in Los Angeles announced that they were offering a $500,000 reward to help catch the killer, who has murdered at least 10 women. On November the 1st, 2008, a story about the Grim Sleeper appeared on television program America's Most Wanted. The program stated that the killer was most likely a black male, but they did not want to rule out anyone else. On July the 7th, 2010, the Los Angeles Times reported that an arrest had been made. The district attorney Steve Cooley identified the suspect as 57-year-old Lonnie David Franklin, a mechanic who worked between 1981 and 1989 for the city of Los Angeles in the sanitation department and briefly for the police department. The arrest of Franklin reportedly was due at least in part of the use of familiar DNA analysis that became more profound during the 2000 eras. The police located similar DNA belonging to Franklin's son Christopher, who had been convicted of felony weapon charges in the past. On December the 16th, 2010, the Los Angeles Police Department released 180 photos of women found in Franklin's home. The police officials released the images after unsuccessful attempts to identify the individuals, possibly additional victims. These people are not suspects. We don't even know if they were victims, but we do know that the Lonnie Franklin during his reign of terror were able to take these pictures of dozens of women, up to around 1,000. Now, I've shown the pictures on the video, I've included them, and as you can see, these are literally hundreds and hundreds of women where Franklin has taken a close-up pictures of these women. Now, the images shown mainly African American women of wide range, from teenagers to middle-aged and older, often nude sometimes. Now, police believe that Franklin took many of these pictures, which shows both conscious and unconscious individuals, and dating back up to 30 years. Now, the photographs were released in an effort to identify women that had not come forward. On May the 5th, 2016, after nearly 3 months of trial and a day and a half of jury deliberation, Lonnie David Franklin was convicted of 10 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder. And on June 6, 2016, Los Angeles County jury sentenced Lonnie to death. However, 4 years into his sentence, he would die in San Quentin, ending almost 2 decades of terror that he had unleashed on the African American community in Los Angeles. Thank you for watching the video. If you've got any suggestions or any cases that you would like me to cover on this channel, please let me know in the description below.